Hey everyone, my name is Missy, and today is May 24th, 2020, which is my son's 4th-month birthday, which means it's also the end of my 4th trimester. Being 4 months postpartum has been an interesting ride, during which I said that I wanted to write my birth story because I had an unplanned home birth. So I didn't actually get around to doing that. I was going to write it, but I can hardly speak the English language, let alone write it. So I decided, why don't I just record this? It's quarantine. Everybody needs a hobby. I'll throw it on YouTube, see what happens. Hopefully it can help anybody out there who's either pregnant or knows somebody who's pregnant, or you gave birth and just like reading birth stories like I like doing. Also, I can share this with friends and family who haven't been able to see my little guy. He was kind of born right when everything started getting crazy. We did have some family meet him, but some of my family didn't. Oh my god, I'm just rambling. Okay, I'm just gonna get to it. Before I get to my birth story, I wanted to just briefly say what my birth plan was so it kind of makes sense. We got pregnant. We found out we were pregnant in June and went through the whole thing. Went to my OB. We were talking about a hospital birth and all that stuff. My OB actually had a midwife, so I kind of felt like it was more natural. I wanted to go with the midwife route, still with the hospital, so we were looking into that. And she recommended that I take this birthing class called the Bradley Method, which I did. And it just kind of series of events, that's how I fell into the birth center. My instructor for the Bradley Method ended up being my doula and recommended a birth center outside the hospital where there's really no doctors. It's just midwives, and there's a nurse practitioner there, so that, kind of outside the system kind of a thing. And then just totally clicked with me. That's what I wanted to do. They have beautiful suites there, birthing tubs, just something that I honestly didn't even know that was attainable or that I could utilize. So happy that I found that with my first baby. We had such an amazing experience there with all of my doctor visits, visiting with the midwives rather, not doctors. But that was the game plan. No meds. I didn't want any meds. I was thinking about doing the birthing tub as labor, but just, traditionally in a bed, all that good stuff. So that was the plan, and it didn't go to plan. They never seemed to do, but so getting to my actual birth story, it started, I was 38 weeks pregnant, which is full term, so I was okay. Baby was doing great. He was in the position for like months, it felt like, which is actually heads down, their butts kind of up, and their feet are to the right-hand side, if I remember correctly. So he was in the position. I didn't have any medical problems. That's another important fact, that I was good. Surprisingly, everything was going really well. So that Tuesday, January 21st, I had my prenatal appointment with my midwife. It went great. I loved going there. My husband went with me. It's kind of just like chatting with the midwife, seeing how things are going, how you're preparing, all that good stuff. And that went fine, went home. So then Wednesday night, really early Thursday morning, this is then the 23rd. I'm looking at my notes in case you're wondering what I'm looking at. I didn't want to try not to ramble too much. Thursday at 3 a.m., I get up to go to the bathroom, which I used to have to do like every other hour, it felt like. And I actually physically couldn't get up. Like, I can't even describe the feeling, but I couldn't move. So I actually had to wake my husband up. It felt so bad. And I was like, could you help me out of bed? So he gets to the side of the bed, helps me up, and my routine was to kind of sit at the edge of the bed because I had horrific hip pain sleeping. It was awful. It's amazing the things you forget so quickly. But yes, like, sleeping was awful. So I scooched to the edge of the bed, and I was sitting there, and I stood up, and I felt like a slight gush. And I knew it wasn't my water breaking, or gush rather. So I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. So I go to the bathroom. I thought I peed myself, to be honest, but I didn't. And I was like, oh crap, now what do I do? So I get out, tell my husband. Of course, he's like, what? Is it game plan day? It wasn't. But one of the benefits of having a doula is you have that like resource. So I texted my doula, and I was just like, it's 3:30 in the morning. You probably won't get this. I'm not calling because I don't think it's an emergency. But something's leaking, and I was assuming she wouldn't text me back. She texted me back right away, which is why I loved her. And she was just kind of like asking me my symptoms, and ended up saying, like, I know this is insane, but just lay back down, try to rest, and I'll touch base with you in the morning. And just having that reassurance that, you don't freak out. So I actually went back to bed, and was able to sleep. I got up, and the birthing center actually had a chiropractor in-house, which I went to in the later part of my pregnancy to help with that hip pain I was telling you about, and I actually still go to her today. She's amazing. So I went to go see Emily around 10 a.m. and I was telling her my story, and I'm pretty sure she told me that she was a La Leche representative before, but very fluent in, baby, motherhood, pregnancy, women's health, all that good stuff. So I was telling her everything, and she's like, that sounds great. It sounds like it's the plan. She went through, we did my adjustment, everything was fine, and then I was leaving, she hugged me, and I was like, she didn't usually hug me, so I was like, that's kind of odd. But then, like, afterwards, I was like, she knew I was gonna have that baby anytime soon. But so that was kind of special. As I was walking out of her office, I left a note at the front desk for my midwife, kind of just explaining what happened. That I didn't think it was a big deal because I was still convinced this baby was going to be late. But I leave her a message, and then I drive the hour home. Yes, did I mention the birth center was an hour away? Yes. So get home. Kind of just like everything was normal, really wasn't too bad, and I was leaking a little bit more than normal, which is probably TMI. So my husband gets home, still nothing happens, and my midwife touched base with me, just kind of asking how I'm feeling, if anything else happened, if I coughed, does anything come out? No, felt great. So she's like, okay, and then she texted me or called me later and was like, you know what, I really just want to see you. So we packed up as if this could be delivery day and trucked the hour to the birth center. I don't think we told family at that point because I was still convinced that he wasn't coming till 40 weeks. I don't know why I thought he was going to be late, but I was convinced he wasn't coming. So we go to the birth center, I get checked out. There's a little swab you can test to see if it's amniotic fluid. It wasn't. She checked me out and said that my cervix looked fine, but it just looks like, things are in motion. Could be tomorrow, could be 2 weeks from now, that baby's coming. So we went back home, and I was fine. I slept, my normal, waking up a couple times to pee, and then we get to Friday the 24th. I wake up, my husband goes to work. It was just another day. I remember I was paying bills. I think I walked my dog, which was at that point just walking up and down my driveway. And I do remember the Braxton Hicks were kind of intense, which I did get some, not too much. Braxton Hicks was really just like tightening, and it was a real tight feeling on the top of my belly that I was getting. And what my midwife had always told me is, whatever you're doing, if you're getting Braxton Hicks, normally do the opposite. So if you're sitting, you get Braxton Hicks, try walking around, try laying down. If you're laying down and you get them, try sitting, just trying to do the opposite. So it was kind of like around noon. I was like, let me eat lunch and then take my afternoon nap. So that's what I did. And then around 2 o'clock, I remember waking up with some cramps, almost like menstrual cramps, and I knew exactly what it was. I was like, oh my God, I'm in labor, it's happening. So from the Bradley Method class, I knew to try to relax as much as possible. So I tried to just go back to sleep, and I did. And then I woke up around 3 o'clock, and I had to pee, which is just normal. So I made it to the bathroom, did my business, and then as soon as I stood up, my water broke. So then I had to stay on the toilet. Of course, I didn't have my cell phone with me. So I was like, ugh. So I'm sitting there, just letting it do its thing. And I did have from the night prior some of those swabs to test if it's amniotic fluid. Of course, they were upstairs. So every time I got up, stuff would come out. So I went through that battle. Once it calmed down, I ran upstairs, got the test, took the test upstairs. Again, I left my phone downstairs, pregnancy not thinking. Test is like, boom, positive. I was like, oh my God. So then I cleaned myself up, run to downstairs, and I called either my mom or the birth center. I don't remember which one I did first. I think I called my mom, or maybe I texted my mom, one of the two. But I did call the birth center, left them a message, letting them know that my water broke, and I knew from the training that they gave us and through the Bradley Method that it could be a really long time, and the importance is tracking your contractions. So I wasn't freaking out at that point. And then I did contact my mom to let her know, because I think I did at that point want her to come down, or maybe it was a little later I asked her to come down. So that happened around like 3:30. My husband usually gets up at 4. This is what he makes fun of me for, but I figured he's working, let him work, he's almost done. And the contractions were not that bad. I definitely could feel them, but I could still talk through them. I could still walk through them at that point. Um, so then it just was into, I was contacting my doula, I was contacting my mom, and then it just dawned on me, what if Matt works late today? And he's not always the easiest to get a hold of. So I was like, let me just call him. So I called his desk, he didn't answer. And then I called his cell and he did. And that's when I started getting a contraction, of course. So I told him that, contractions have started. And he was kind of like, why didn't you call me right away? And whatever. I had plenty of time. So he comes home, and that's where everything started going really fast. So keep in mind, I felt my first contraction kind of like at 2 p.m. Really, contractions started as soon as my water broke, is when I was like, you could really feel them. So around 5-ish, I'd say, Matt, my husband, is upstairs. He's getting his bag together. I don't know what he was doing. I wasn't really paying attention. I was downstairs in the living room just trying to labor through them, and through the training we received, and they're like, oh, try to lay down. I laid down. I was like, this is not happening. I tried on my birthing ball, like bouncing on the birthing ball or just sitting on it. Nope. The only thing that I could do was either stand and lean over a countertop. So I was kind of like, in like a 90-degree angle, or if I was kneeling on the floor and had, like, again, that 90-degree angle bent, laying on my coffee table. So I was doing one of the two, and just in constant contact with the doulas and my midwife. And we started tracking the contractions. Matt was there with me. I can't remember what my dog was doing. I know he was there. He was probably just like, you guys are being weird. I don't think he was like overly alert to what was going on or anything like that. So some time goes by, and they just keep getting faster. They were like a minute and 2 minutes apart, something like that. They just went boom, 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 like real fast. So around 6:30, the plan was to go to the birth center. Like, because at that point we're like, okay, labor started at 3, it could be at 3 in the morning, it could be the next day. Who knows? They could start and plateau, and I could, have a break and, be cooking dinner, and they won't kick back in until night. You really never know what's going to happen. So I'm thinking it's going to be hours from now. This is what I'm going to be going through. And I'm thinking, man, these are intense. I don't know how women, go through this for hours and hours. So at 6:30, the plan was to go to the birth center. Matt starts packing up. He's packing the car, getting all that good stuff ready to go. And this is probably too much, but I felt like I had to go to the bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, and I sit on the toilet, and I don't have to go to the bathroom. So I pull all my pants up and everything, go back into the living room, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to go to the bathroom again. I try one more time, and that's when it clicked on me that I didn't have to go to the bathroom, I was pushing. So I was like, oh my God, so I told Matt, I think I'm pushing. So I remember, this is funny, I called my doula, and I told her, I was like, I think I'm pushing. And she was like, don't call me, call the midwife. So we called the midwife, and I told her I was pushing, and she was like, do not come to the birth center, because remember I told you it was an hour away. So I was like, oh boy. So she was like, do not come to the birth center, we are coming to you. So they were kind of like mobilizing. It's probably around like 7:30ish at that point. I don't know where that hour went. I guess I was just having contractions, but around 7:30 they decided, you need to stay there, otherwise you're going to have a baby in the car. So I called my doula back, so she was also on her way. Matt was talking to the midwife. I did hear, and again, you're kind of like out of it, you kind of like zone out. I did hear her say something along the lines of like, don't be afraid to call 911. And I was like, oh my God, that is not happening. I do not want EMTs here. Nothing against EMTs, but I was like, I don't need people in my house. I can do this. I do not want to be ambulance to a hospital. So what they had told me, this is honestly the worst part. This is worse than contractions. So to slow the labor down, my midwife recommended going on all fours with basically my head on my hands and basically your bum up in the air. So now you're using gravity. Your body is trying to get the baby out, and you're using gravity to kind of slow it down. That was the worst. With every contraction, my body is just pushing. It's not even me, my body's just doing it. It's pushing, and I'm simultaneously throwing up. So that was a great visual. Butt up in the air, my head's in a bucket puking. My poor husband was probably losing his mind. I don't even remember what he was doing. I was just so zoned into what was going on, just closing my eyes and focusing on breathing. So that was about an hour, because we live kind of far away. So I remember my doula got there first, and it was like instant relief. That's one of the reasons why I loved having her. It was just instant relief when she got there. It was like, okay, I don't have to panic anymore. My doula's here. She's going to walk me through it. So she instantly got on the floor with me. was just telling me I'm doing awesome, helping me focus on breathing slowly, because you kind of, I wanted to be like, but you just, breathing through it. Then the nurse practitioner got there, and then my midwife got there, and they were kind of all just like, trying to get a heartbeat, assessing what was going on downstairs, where did I want to give birth, and at that point my knees were killing me, and I was like, I need to get off my knees. So I wanted to go upstairs. So then we made the trek from my living room to upstairs while getting contractions. I think, God, they were like every minute. So they'd all hold me, I'd stop and breathe, and then go upstairs. You'd think I'd remember that more, but I really don't. Somehow we made it upstairs. We get into the bedroom, and then, they're like, what position do you want to be in? And at that point, I was just like, I don't know. What position do you want me to be in? I needed somebody to tell me. So I think as my doula was just like, do you want to be, on the floor? I was like, I don't want to be on my knees anymore. So she's like, well, let's try laying down. So I laid down in my bed, which is honestly pretty cool, that I got to have it at home in my own bed, being all comfortable. The midwife, practitioner, and Matt and everybody, nurse practitioner, they all got my bed ready. Thank God, just a coincidence, we had a waterproof mattress cover. We have the Casper mattress, and that was like the cover option. I didn't even realize that at the time. But it was stripped down to that, and at that point you're just like, who cares? I don't care. Throw them away and get new sheets. I don't care. I just want this baby out. So we get in my bed, and I've got pretty much my husband on my left side and my doula on my right side. They're both holding my hand, coaching me through. Again, this is probably by the time we got upstairs and into bed, probably like 9:15 we're talking. And the contractions, my body's just pushing. And it's so weird because I felt like I wasn't really doing it as much as my body was doing it. And I was just kind of letting my body do its thing. I really think I could have been in a coma and not done anything, and my body was going to have that baby, which is really kind of cool. So I'm laying there, they're trying to get a heartbeat, and they can't really get a heartbeat. I don't remember this, so a lot of this is secondhand stuff because I was just like totally in the zone. But my midwife did check my cervix, and baby was right there. So we just went right into pushing. One of the benefits to me of having the midwives and the doula is the pressure. I have anxiety anyway, so the idea of like somebody being like push is just not for me. So they're just kind of like encouraging, letting my body do its own thing, kind of describing what's happening, like, oh, the head's coming out, things like that. Matt was right there, so he got to see everything. I had my eyes closed, and I remember that. This is kind of a shame, but that's just what I needed at the time. I remember thinking they got a mirror so I could see his head coming out, and I remember thinking that if I open my eyes and the progress that I'm doing is not what I'm visualizing, I felt like I was gonna get, like it was gonna be negative or something, or I was just gonna get upset. So I was like, I can't look. So I was pushing, but luckily my doula, who's amazing, she hijacked my phone and was taking videos and pictures, so I got to look at all of it later. I didn't miss anything. So I pushed my son Paul out. 10 o'clock on the dot is when he came out. I have a video that my doula took that I just like totally cherish. Matt's right there, and my midwife hands me my son, and I pull him up to my chest, and it's just such an amazing, magical moment that just, I love it. And I remember thinking, just like, almost immediately, I could do this again. It really wasn't that bad for me. I know all women are different. For me, it wasn't, I wouldn't say painful as much as it was just excruciatingly uncomfortable. But once you have your baby in your arms, like all that, who cares? I don't even know what was going on at that point. Matt had his own magical moments in the fact that he was right there. He was so hands-on involved. My son came out and apparently opened his eyes and looked right at Matt. Matt kind of caught him. The baby's not flying. He's really just like kind of holding the baby. So that was super special. I have pictures of those too, which is just absolutely amazing. He came out over 9 pounds. He was 21 inches long. He was crying. He had a full head of hair. He was just perfect. It was just amazing. So I got to hold him. He went instantly skin to skin, which is one of the methods that people talk about. A lot of hospitals are doing it now anyway, but the importance of skin to skin immediately. So he was on my chest. I was holding him. I'm in totally like mom heaven at that point. Like, who cares what else is going on? But at that point, I did tear a couple times. Minor tears. They were even, the nurse practitioner and midwife have been talking if I needed stitches. They decided to. At that point, the only real complication I had is my placenta was not really coming out. And if you're pregnant and you're worried about that at all, it doesn't, honestly, I couldn't even feel if I was pushing. I kept saying, like, am I even doing anything? But they ended up giving me a shot of Pitocin to kind of speed that up so that the placenta would come out so that they could clean me up and stitch me up. That was another, like, I don't want to say painful thing, but annoying thing was because I was on my back, my legs were like spread for so long, and then you have your baby and you just want to like flop over and relax, but then they had to clean me up, which, it's a process, but I was like, oh my God, I just want to put my legs down. Your legs just get so sore. So they cleaned me up, and then one of the, processes you have to do is you have to go to the bathroom. So we walked to my bathroom and I was able to use the bathroom. I almost passed out, so luckily I had OJ. Somebody ran downstairs, got me some orange juice, put my head between my legs, all that good stuff, felt better, laid down. My parents, through this madness, had gotten there because I think at one point, I always cry when I talk to my mom and I don't feel good. I do think I remember crying to my mom a little bit and telling her, like, I want you to come down when I was contractions. So my mom did come down. They're in Pennsylvania, so they're about 4 or 5 hours away. So they got there sometime during that madness. I think it was around 9, I said. My mom said she could hear Paul cry when he was born, so that was kind of special. They weren't in the room, they were downstairs with my pup, Mo. But around 1 o'clock, my parents got to come in, and my mom got to hold Paul, which was really special. I have some pictures of those. One of the memories that, just a great memory you don't forget, your mom meeting your first baby for the first time. So that was really special. And then everybody went to bed, and I was like, wide awake. First of all, I was starving. I remember I made Matt, I really wanted a buttered roll, which is a total Jersey thing. I did not have Kaiser rolls. I think we had hamburger rolls. So I made Matt give me a butter roll. I had not eaten anything since noon. I was starving and wide awake and on like a baby high, 1 a.m, and everybody just wants to go to sleep. And I was like, so I got to eat something. My husband was exhausted mentally and physically, I'm sure. And everybody just went to sleep. And I think I stayed awake holding my little peanut for a while. I don't even remember if I put him in the bassinet or not. I'm assuming he did. I fell asleep at some point. But the best thing was I was home. I remember one thing I was stressing about was the drive from the hospital birthing center to home, because it's an hour away, and I'd heard that, your lady part's hurt and it's all rocky and everything, and you feel every bump. So luckily I didn't. I just, was home. It was great. The midwives checked on me. My midwife checked on me a couple days later. My doula checked on me a couple days later. I never had to leave my house. It was wonderful. Paul was perfect. So yeah, that was my birth story. So I'm not a professional. I'm a first-time mom. I'm not, a nurse by trade or a doctor by trade. I'm actually an accountant, so I know nothing about the medical field, but I feel like if I can do it, you can definitely do it, as long as it's safe and your doctors feel like, it's something that you could do. But it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing, and I loved every second of it. And if we do have another baby, I would totally want to do a home birth again. Knowing that if you do home birth, there's some preparations that you can do, which the birth center told us about in our classes, which I'd be happy to share with you guys if you want me to do another video more on detail and anything on my pregnancy or birth centers outside of hospitals, anything like that. I'd be happy to do that. Leave in the comments below any comments, questions, suggestions for other videos. I'm like everybody on quarantine, bored and looking for other activities, so I'd love to film other videos if on topics people find interesting. What else? Just kind of an update over the last 3 months. Paul's done amazing. I do breastfeed. We had a couple issues with breastfeeding and him not gaining weight, but I think we've gotten over that. My postpartum has been interesting. Physically, I bounced back so fast. I was amazed. how much healing my body could do so quickly. It was crazy. But mentally, my anxiety was, and still is a little, getting there. But yeah, we're all doing well, very happy, healthy, trying to stay quarantined, and hopefully everybody else is doing well and happy and healthy. And thank you so much for watching. Hopefully I'll have more videos as I think of things, or if you have topics you'd like to talk about, just leave them, like I said, in the comments below, and I will see you next time. Thanks.